we're going to look on the ground for any wet spots, for any leaks or anything like that. Make sure it has no leaks. From there, we're going to check the suspension to make sure that it's sitting level. If it weren't, that'd be the indication of a weak suspension or a low tire. So from there, we're going to start out up top with our air horns. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're coming on to our 5 amber lights. They're amber in color because they're forward facing and they're not cracked or broken, and they operate as our running lights. So then we're coming on to the windshield gasket. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked or broken. From there, we're coming on to the windshield itself. The windshield's properly mounted, not cracked or broken, and it's free of any illegal stickers. Then we're coming down to our inspection sticker. It's properly in its proper place and it's up to date. From there, we're coming on to our windshield wiper arms and blades. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're flush with the windshield. From there, we're coming on to our grill. Our grill is properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any debris. From there, we're coming on to our headlights. They're clear, they're not cracked or broken, and they operate as our high beam and our low beam. From there, we're coming on to our turn signals. They're amber in color because they're forward facing, and they operate as turn signals, four-ways, and running lights. Then we're coming on to the outside marker lights on the outside of the fender. They're amber in color. They're not cracked or broken, and they also operate as turn signals, four-ways, and running lights. From there, we're coming on to our bumper. Our bumper's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're coming on to our license plate. It's clean, it's up to date, and it's properly mounted. So then we're going to open the hood. Okay, so we start over here inside the door. Okay, so we're going to our windshield washer reservoir. It's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not leaking, and we're checking to make sure that it's proper operational level. From there, we start on our motor. We start with the turbo. Properly mounted, not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going back to the turbo exhaust. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and at this time, we're looking for any black soot that would indicate a leak. From there, I'm coming on to my dipstick right here. I'm gonna pull it out, wipe it off, put it back in, pull it out again, and make sure that it's proper operational level. From there, I'm going on to my alternator. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's belt driven, so I'm making sure that the belt's not cut or frayed and has no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. From there, we're coming on to the wires going into the alternator. They're not abrased, burned, or cut, and they're properly mounted. From there, we're going down to our water pump. It's gear driven, it's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. All right, and it's not leaking. So from there, we're coming on to our fan shroud and our fan. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no missing pieces. From there, we're coming on to our radiator. Our radiator is properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, it's not leaking. From there, we're coming to the hoses coming out of the radiator. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there's no leaks. Okay, so now we're going to start on the other side of the radiator. Okay, so we're going to start up here with our coolant reservoir. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, it's not leaking. From there, we're going to check our sight glass. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, it's not leaking, and we want to make sure that it's at the proper operational level. From there, we're checking the hoses coming out. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and they're not leaking. From there, we're coming on to our AC unit. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it too is belt driven. So at this time, we're checking to make sure the belt's not cut or frayed, and that it has no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. From there, we're coming onto our wire harness. Our wire harness is properly mounted. It's not abrased, burns, or cuts. From there, we're coming onto our air compressor. It's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no audible leaks. From there, we're checking the lines coming out of the air compressor. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, or no audible leaks. From there, we're coming down to our fuel line. Our fuel line is properly mounted, and there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and it's not leaking. From there, we're going to follow it down into our fuel pump. Our fuel pump is properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. So from there, we're coming on to our power steering reservoir. Our power steering reservoir is properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and at this time, I'm going to check my sight glass to make sure it's at proper operational level. So from there, I'm coming onto the hose coming out of it. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there's no leaks. From there, I'm coming onto my steering column. It's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and at this time, I'm going to check it to make sure that I have no more than 2 inches or 10 degrees of movement. From there, I'm coming onto my U-joint down here that connects it. So that's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's properly greased. From there, I'm coming onto my steer box. Okay, that's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. From there, I'm coming onto my 4 steering components. We have a pitman arm, a drag link, a control arm, and down here we have a tie rod. They're all properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're mounted with a castle nut and a cotter pin. All right, so from there, we're coming out to our suspension. So we have our saddle and our shackle. They're properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going to check our spring. Our spring is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's perfectly aligned, and there's no missing pieces. From there, we're coming onto the U-bolts and the saddle. They're properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. So from there, we're coming on to our shock absorber. Our shock absorber is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. From there, we're coming on to our air line, going into the brake chamber. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and no audible leak. From there, we're coming on to our brake chamber itself and our clamp. All right, so they're properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no audible leaks. From there, we're coming on to our push rod and our slack adjuster. They're properly mounted. They're mounted with a pin and a counter pin, and with the brakes released, I would have no more than 1 inch of movement. From there, we're coming on down here to our S-cam and roller. Our S-cam and roller is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. So from there, we're going to start on the inside of the rim. The inside of the rim is round. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any illegal welds. From there, we're going into our brake drum. Our brake drum is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any oil, grease, or debris. So then we're coming on to our brake shoes, or our brake pads. They're properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they too are also free of any oil, grease, or debris, and they must have at least a 1/4 inch of pad. So from there, we're coming on to the tire. Okay, so the insides and outsides of the tires, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and no audible leaks. From there, we're coming on to the tire itself. They have to be the same size. These cannot be recaps. We're checking for any tread separation, and we're checking for an even wear. And they must have at least 4/30 seconds of groove, tread depth in every major groove. Okay, so from there, we're coming to the outside of the rim. It's round, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any illegal welds. From there, we're coming on to the valve stem. So the valve stem's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's metal, and it has a locking cap, and there's no audible leaks. At this time, I'm going to take my air gauge, and I'm going to measure my air pressure to make sure I'm at between 100 and 110 psi on a cold tire. From there, I'm coming out to my lugs. I'm going to check all my lugs. Make sure there is none missing, they're not cracked, bent, or broken. At this time, I'm looking for white powder on an aluminum wheel or rust on a steel wheel, which would indicate a loose lug, and I would tighten it. So that from there, I'm coming onto the hub. All the bolts are there, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. At this time, I'm looking to see if it has a sight gauge to make sure that it's a proper operational level. If it don't, I'm going to open up that cap and make sure I have at least an inch of oil. Okay, so from there, coming onto our door. The mirror is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. Alright, so then we're coming onto our door latch. Our door latch is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it functions properly. So we open it up, and it operates properly. So now we're going to check our door hinges. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken. Okay, so then we're going up onto our glass. It's not cracked or broken, and it operates properly. So from there, we're coming into our door gasket. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. Alright? Alright, so from there, we're coming on to our fuel tank. Alright, our fuel tank is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. And at this time, I'm going to check my straps. They're metal straps with the rubber and under to keep it from rubbing. They're properly mounted, and they're not cracked, bent, or broken. So from there, I'm coming onto my fuel cap. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. And now I'm going to check the rubber grommet up in the fuel cap, make sure it's not cracked or broken. So from there, I'm coming onto my steps. My steps are properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're free of any oil, grease, or debris. From there, I'm coming over here to my exhausts. My exhausts are properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and again, I'm looking for any black soot that would be the indication of a leak. So from there, I'm coming down to my air tank. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no audible leaks. Then I'm checking the air lines coming out of the air tank. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and no audible leaks. Then I'm coming on to my dry shaft. My dry shaft is straight, it's free, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any illegal welds. From there, I'm checking my U-joints, front and back. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're properly greased. Then I'm going to come back to my rear or my differential. That's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. So from there, I'm coming out here to my frame. I'm checking the whole frame and making sure that it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any illegal welds. From there, I'm coming onto my catwalk. So my catwalk is properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's free of any oil, grease, or debris. So from there, I'm coming on to my battery box. My battery box is properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and at this time, I'm going to open up my batteries, and I'm going to check the batteries, make sure they're not cracked or broken. Then I'm checking the battery cables to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or corrosion. From there, I'm coming up here to my air lines. This is my service line, this is my emergency line. Blue for service, red for emergency. They're properly mounted, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there's no audible leaks. From there, I'm coming on to my glad hands. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no audible leak. From there, I'm checking my grommet that's in the middle, the rubber grommet, making sure it's not cracked or broken and no audible leak. From there, I'm coming on to my electric line. It's got a locking end, I'm making sure it's locked on both ends and it's properly mounted, and there's no abrasions, burns, or cuts. And with all that said, I'm making sure that there's enough room here that they're not going to rub during travel. Okay, so now we're going to do our equalizer and our torque arm. Okay, they're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken. Then we're going to do our spring hanger and our spring. Okay, so they're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken. Our springs are perfectly aligned, and there's no missing pieces. From there, we're coming into the airline, coming into the brake chamber. They're properly mounted, not cracked, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and no audible leak. From there, we're coming onto the brake chamber itself. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. But this time, I'm going to check my brakes as I did up front, with the exception that this is a spring brake. So from there, we're going on to the tires. On the inside and outside of the tires, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. Then we're coming into the center of the tire, make sure there's no foreign objects that are going to fly out. And while we're looking in there, we're making sure our rims are touching and there's no daylight. So then we're coming onto the tread. These can be recaps. They must be the same size. We're looking for any tread separation, and they must have at least 2 32 of an inch of tread in every major groove. So from there, we're coming on to the outside of the rim. It's round, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, it's free of any illegal welds. Then we're going to check our lugs. All our lugs are there, none missing, not cracked, bent, or broken. And at this time, we're looking for white powder on an aluminum rim and rust on a steel rim. That would indicate a loose lug, and I would tighten it. So from there, I'm checking my valve stem. My valve stem is metal, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and there's no audible leak, and it has a locking cap. And at this time, I'm going to take out my tire gauge, and I'm going to measure all my tires to make sure they're between 100 and 110 psi on a cold tire. From there, we're going on to our hub. All the bolts are there, none missing, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's not leaking. Okay, so from there, we're going into our fifth wheel. All right, this is our fifth wheel mount. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. And we're going to check the sliding rail, which is all the teeth. They're properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going into our lock. All right, it's in the out position and the lock position, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, I'm going to check my handle, which is on the other side. It's in the in position, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken in the lock position. So now I'm going to check and make sure there's no daylight between my apron and my fifth wheel. All right. So from there, I'm coming around the back, and I'm going to look up in the fifth wheel. All right. So I'm making sure that my kingpin is properly mounted to my apron. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. And I'm going to check the locks that are around the shaft of the kingpin. Make sure they're properly locked around the kingpin and that those are not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, I'm going to make sure that my fifth wheel is in the proper position so that my tires won't hit my landing gear. So from there, we're coming onto the mud flap. The mud flap is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's at the proper height. From there, we're coming into the red lights in the back, tail lights. They're red in color because they're rear facing, and they operate as brake lights, running lights, four-ways, and turn signals. From there, we're going to check the white part of the light. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and that will operate as our reverse light. So from there, we're coming up here to the front, and we're going to check our bulkhead. All the rivets and panels, making sure that they're all there. There's no big holes, and that it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going up to our amber clearance light. It's amber in color because it's forward facing and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're coming on to our apron, which is the blue part here. It's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going to check all the rivets and panels all the way down the side of the trailer, making sure there's no holes or weak spots, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going to check our DOT tape, making sure it covers at least 50% of the side of the trailer. From there, we're going up and under here, and we're going to check all our cross members all the way back. Make sure they're properly mounted, not cracked, bent, or broken. At this time, we're going to check all the rivets. If there's more than one rivet missing at each cross member, it's an indication of a weak floor. Then we're going to look in under all the flooring, all the way back and under the trailer, make sure there's no holes or sags. From there, we're coming on to our landing gear. Our landing gear is properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're checking our landing pads. Our landing pads are properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're in the up position for travel. From there, we're checking our handle. Our handle's properly mounted. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It is stored for travel. So from there, we're going to check our clearance light up top, amber in color, properly mounted, not cracked, bent, or broken. Then we're going to check our turn signal here. Amber in color, not cracked, bent, or broken. It operates as turn signals, four-ways, and running light. From there, we're coming on to our airlines and underneath the trailer. Okay, so there's hung at the proper height, and there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and no audible leaks. Okay, so from there, we're going to look at our sliding tandems right here. They're properly mounted. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. Then we're going to look at the sliding rail, the one with all the holes. That's properly mounted, not cracked, bent, or broken. Then we're looking at the holes themselves, make sure they're not egg-shaped. Then we're going to check the pins, the locking pins, right here, front and back, making sure that they're in the lock position and they're not cracked, bent, or broken. Then we're going to check the handle, make sure it's in the in position and in the lock position, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going to come out here and we're going to check our tires, our rims, and our brakes, like we did up front. Okay, so from there, we're coming back here and we're going to examine the mud flap. It's properly hung, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's at the right height. From there, we're coming on to the red taillight. It's red because it's at the tail of the trailer. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it's properly mounted. So from there, we're going to come back to the back. We're going to check all our red lights up top. They're red because they're rear facing, and they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they work as running lights. From there, we're going to check our rivets and our door panels. Make sure there's none missing, they're not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're checking our cable. Our cables on both sides are properly mounted, and they're not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going to check our handle. Our handle's properly mounted, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. So from there, we're going on to our locking handle. It operates properly, it's in the lock position, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going to check our DOT tape. In the rear, it must cover 100% of the trailer. From there, we're going to come on to our red taillights. They're red in color because they're rear facing, and they operate as running lights, brake lights, four-ways, and turn signals. So from there, we're coming on to our license plate light. It's properly mounted, it's clear, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, we're going on to our license plate itself. Our license plate is properly mounted, it's clean, and it's up to date. From there, we're going to check out our ICC bumper, or DOT bumper. It's properly mounted, and it's not cracked, bent, or broken. At this time, you'll ask your instructor to do a light check. And you will go up, you will close the hood, you will turn your key on, he'll stand back here, and you're going to do left turn signal, right turn signal, four ways, and running lights. And he's going to come up here, you're going to do your left turn signal, four ways, and running light. Then you're going to come up here to the back, he'll come up here to the back, and he's going to watch, and you're going to turn around, you're going to left turn signal, right turn signal, brake lights, and running lights. And at this time, with the key on, you would try and get it in reverse. If it won't go, you'll tell the tester that you're trying to put it in reverse and it won't go. At that point, it's his call whether he wants you to start the engine and put it in reverse or just give you credit for it, okay? Because oftentimes without the truck running, the truck won't go into reverse. All right, so then he's going to come up here in the front, which the hood would already be closed, and he's going to do your high beams, low beams, left turn signal, right turn signal, and four ways and running lights. Okay, so at this point, we'll start the end cap. All right. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to start with your emergency equipment, your seat belt. All right. You're going to take your seat belt and you're going to make sure it's not cutter frayed. You're going to wrap it around yourself and lock it and say that it's not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, you're going to come down to your fire extinguisher. Your fire extinguisher is properly mounted and it's in the green and it's up to date. Then you're going to turn around and you're going to look at your 3 triangles that you have here. They're orange in color and they're not cracked, bent, or broken. From there, you're going to tell your instructor that you're going to carry 1 spare fuse for every fuse unless it's a relay. All right, so from there, you're going to start your in-cab, you're going to blow your air horn, you're going to blow your city horn. Then we're going to check the inside of the windshield gasket, make sure that it's not cracked or broken. Then we're going on to the windshield. It's not properly mounted and it's not cracked or broken, and it cannot have a crack of more than 1 inch, and it's free of any illegal stickers. Then you're coming down to your inspection sticker. You're making sure they're in the right spot and they're up to date. From there, you're coming on to your wiper blades and your wiper arms. They're properly mounted, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're flush against the windshield. From there, you're going to look at your mirror and you're going to tell them that your mirror is not cracked, bent, or broken, and that it's adjusted to you. Okay, so from there, you're going to turn your key on and you're going to work your headlight switch. You're going to show them how that works. Your headlight, turn your key on and push your headlights in. Okay, turn them off. Then your next button down is your wipers. Okay, then your next button down from that is your windshield washer. No, up, right there. That's your windshield washer, all right? So you would push that and activate that, you know, and you'll have to see that that works, you know. All right, you can shut them off. Push your top button. There you go. Now, from there, you're going to start reading your gauges. You got your temp gauge, your oil pressure gauge, your tachometer, your speedometer, your fuel gauge, your primary air, and your secondary air. Okay, so after all that, you're going to give your steering wheel a little wiggle. You're going to keep the key on. Wiggle the steering wheel that you're checking for your 2 inches or 10 degrees of movement. From there, you're going to operate and make sure that your defrosters work. Now you can turn your key off. From there, you're going to come down to your foot pedals. You're going to say that they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and the rubber is properly grooved, and it's free of any oil, grease, or debris, and it's free from any objects rolling up and under it. From there, you're going to go to your shifter, and your shifter and your splitter. They're properly mounted, and they're not cracked, bent, or broken. Okay, so from here, we start our air brakes. Okay, so now you can start the engine. You got it?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to do our air test. We want to remember the word SALE, S-A-L-E, like a store would have. You're doing a static test, an apply test, a low air test, and an emergency brake test. Your static test, it will start. You'll run the truck up to 120 PSI, and then you will chalk the wheels. And how you're going to chalk your wheels, you're going to push in the clutch pedal, and you're going to put the thing in first gear with the engine running. Okay, you're going to put it in first gear. You're going to shut the engine off. Then you're going to turn around and let the clutch back out, and you're going to push in your buttons, having only your transmission hold you. Then you're going to turn your key on. The moment you turn your key on, you're going to start your air test, which is going to consist of the first one being your static test. Your static test is You cannot lose more than 3 psi in 60 seconds. So you're going to watch the clock go to 60 seconds. Then you're going to do the second part of the test, which is the apply test. You're going to lightly apply the brake and hold it, and you're going to set the timer for 60 seconds, and it cannot lose more than 4 psi in 60 seconds. Then your third test will be that you're going to fan your brake down, and at 60 psi, this is all done with the key on.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so at 60 psi, your low air warning light will come on at 60 psi. Then you're going to do your emergency brake test. Okay, your emergency brakes, you're going to fan your foot until the truck gets down between 20 and 40 pounds of psi on your air tanks. And then your emergency brakes are going to activate, and these buttons are going to pop out. All right, so then from there, you're going to turn around and knock it into neutral, and you're going to start it up. You're going to give it gas until it hits 80 pounds of pressure. Then don't give it any more gas, because you're going to start measuring from 85 to 100. It should take 45 seconds to build. All right, and at that time, you're going to tell your instructor that you're checking your air governor, that it kicks in between 90 and 100, and it kicks out between 120 and 125. Then at that point, you're going to run the thing up to 120 pounds of air, and you're going to push in your yellow button, and you're going to nudge front, checking your trailer brake. Then you're going to pull this one out, and you're going to push this one in. All right, and you're going to nudge front, checking your parking brake. Then you're going to push them both in, and you're going to nudge front, and you're going to stop and make sure you're checking your foot brake or your service brake. And then that's the end of your pre-trip.